Hi everyone, hope everyone is doing well. So today we will discuss about jobs and career in product management for folks who are actually interested in pursuing a career. What kind of what kind of opportunities exist? What do the jobs actually look like? We are going to discuss that. Before that, I would like to ask all of you watching this video, please subscribe and like my channel, and also leave comments if you would like to understand certain concepts in product management. So coming to the jobs and career, so I'll try to break it down into I'll salient points, and then basically help you understand what kind of industries exist and how can you pick up careers uh, in product management. So at a very high level, there are two different kind of industry segments, B2B versus B2C. uh, in B2B, you basically are dealing with businesses most of the time. So essentially, the focus is on let's say industries, wherein you deal with businesses in retail, financial services. You could deal with businesses in manufacturing, right? So you're essentially dealing directly with the business, right? So that's B2B. B2C is basically direct to consumer, business to consumer, right? So this is like your Amazon, the Flipkarts, Myntra, right? So when you go to the website, it's essentially selling products directly to the consumer, right? So that's one distinct, I would say difference. The careers obviously do differentiate, and the roles and responsibilities also change. So uh, but there are also a lot of similarities, that is expected of the product managers, irrespective of whether you are in B2B or B2C. So what are those like? So right, so you need to have a good understanding of the product life cycle, uh, and we can talk of examples here, right? You need to definitely understand what your competition is doing, right? And you need to understand like how is the market in general, adopting, right, to your uh, product in general, right? So I'll give you an example of point A, which is basically understanding the product life cycle, right? What do you mean by understanding the product life cycle? So in general, like I think if you look at product life cycle, any product would go through its inception, have the maturity, scale up, be stable, and then have a declining kind of a trend, right? So these essentially three, four stages define how a product is going to look at, how the product is going to be perceived by your consumers, right? And this is typically the deciding factor of uh, how a product needs to be changed over a period of time, right? So on your this thing, this axis you have time, and then obviously this is like the stage in which the product is. So and this is just to help you understand like why is it important to understand product life cycle, because you could be actually expected to be either a part of this entire life cycle, or you are at some point maybe brought in, when maybe let's say the product is not launched, and you are in this initial phase maybe, or maybe you are in this phase, or you are in a stable product phase, right? You definitely don't want to be in this phase where the product is actually on the decline, right? So helping understand where the product is would help you understand how your career is actually linked to it, right? So someone who actually is able to get into when the product has not been launched, and follows this trajectory, would be able to actually also follow a similar trajectory in their careers. If you join in very early when the product has not been launched, then you obviously are going to have a parallel career, which will be linked to how the product has evolved. So because you will be going through the different stages, right? So that's the importance of product, understanding the product life cycle, if and when you have to make that decision, right? Understanding the competitive landscape fairly simple, I would say. Like you should definitely know what your competitors are doing in terms of, I would say, uh, two or three important things, right? Like uh, essentially, like you should be able to uh, tell, for example, some of the features that your competitors are bringing up, right? How do you know? Maybe read about the blogs, website, uh, g2.com. There are a lot of resources that can help you understand that, right? And then you should definitely know about the pricing, like what is it that your competitor is offering and at what price, right? These are, I think, the two important parts. In general, if you can get hands on, I would say, strategy, which is difficult, I think, but if you know like what your competitive strategy is, then you can actually link out and pan out the entire like competitive landscape, which you should definitely consider when you are actually generating the product roadmap. Understanding market adoption is in some ways related to product lifecycle, but what I mean by this is essentially looking at the industry in itself, right? So where is the industry headed? Where is the economy headed, right? Uh, if you are launching a product in developed markets versus developing market, right? That there's obviously going to be economy, that is going to come into picture. Uh, Industry, a high growth industry versus let's say a stagnated industry, right? So that is what I mean by market adoption. So these 3 points I think hopefully are clear, and these three common points will remain irrespective of whether you choose a B2B product management path or you choose a B2C product management path, right? Now the next question is going to be like, okay, can you help us understand like where do we start, right? So typically, at least in my observation, what I have seen is that product managers can either come from background of engineering or some sort of a tech background, right? Engineers are very, I would say, natural problem solvers, and that is one trait that you need as a product manager. You need to be able to identify problems to solve, right? The second part is second kind of folks that I have at least seen is fresh MBA or non-tech backgrounds, right? There is enough, I think, uh, understanding that these guys have about maybe the industry or understanding how strategy functions. So you do have like roles that allow non-tech background as well. Then you have obviously your design background. A lot of time designers actually switch to PM roles. If you have been in marketing and sales, I would say it is possible, maybe not as easy as let's say an engineer or an MBA or a designer, but it is nonetheless possible. Why is it possible? You definitely have skills that are needed. You have skills of understanding your customers. You probably also understand sales cycles, right? So that, and then operations, I think, if I were to like say, I would say probably the hardest switch. I might know probably like less than 10% folks in my circle who have done operations to product management switch. But it is possible because operations understand, how, for example, cycles function, how, the quarterly processes that are set up function, how the launch, operation cycle along with, the different teams function. So there's definitely some overlap. So these are, I think, the path, depending on like where you are and what background you come from, you can have a look at product management as a career option. The third point that I wanted to cover today was around career progress. Like how do you see product managers progressing. So typically you start at an entry level. Your entry level could be either a PM, maybe, or you could also start as like by doing an intern as a PM, right? Get the understanding of what the company is all about, and get some exposure there. Then you probably move to something like a APM, or I would say a permanent PM role. Spend your time for maybe like 2 to 3 years, understand it, and then you move to like SPM. I would say in some cases you could have in companies, you could have like PM2, PM3 roles as well. We can discuss that. Leave out comments, and I can help you. And then senior management is, sorry, I forgot. I think one more level. I think in mid-level management, you will also have your principal PMs and what you call as group PMs. I think in most cases you could argue or you could see like I think all of these could be like probably IC roles. You don't get teams when you get to the senior level folks like the senior level roles. It is like directors, senior directors, uh, VPs, right? That is where you get your teams, team responsibilities. Other than obviously setting up the charter product vision, right? Um, you obviously mentor the junior PMs, right? And then it's more of an outward like function in the sense it has got more outward like responsibilities. Like you do have to develop your team, which is all inward, but you also have to maintain relationships with other teams around you, right? You might be having interactions with the engineering leads, the engineering lead in your company or the marketing lead, right? So you definitely also have to have good people management. So I think this video was able to give you a good understanding of jobs, careers, how careers progress, right? Feel free to leave comments and feel free to suggest topics that you would like to understand further. Thank you.